Good afternoon and welcome to this edition of Live from NOIRLab at Arizona. I'm your host, Rob Sparks, with our moderator, Jamika Marshall. Today we have several guests who will be telling us about a very interesting program that I've had the pleasure of working with them for quite a few years now. We have Perrin Teal Sullivan from the University of Alaska Fairbanks, Amy Orchard from the Arizona Sonoran Desert Museum, Lois Liston from Hashan Preparatory and Leadership Academy here in Tucson, and Tracy Buden, who is with the Mount Lemmon Sky Center, and they can all do introductions and tell them more about what they do as we go on here. But today we're going to talk about Colors of Nature and Color Studio Lab, an innovative STEAM program at NOIRLab. And this is an educational program. STEAM, of course, is many people know STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. STEAM adds art to that. So it's an integrated math and science and art program, which is a lot of fun to work on, and I'm looking forward to being able to tell you all about it. But first, before we begin, I'd like to tell you a little about Kit Peak, as it's our NOIRLab facility here in Tucson. Kit Peak is funded by the National Science Foundation and is a NOIRLab facility. It was founded in 1958 and is located on land leased from the Tohono O'odham Nation. We are indebted to the Tohono O'odham people for letting us use one of their sacred mountains for astronomical research. Kit Peak is home to over 24 optical telescopes and 2 radio telescopes. We always start with a little science highlight or something happening at NOIRLab, and this week I would like to highlight Tom Matheson. He was the subject of a recent NOIRLab Stories blog. He's a Tucson-based astronomer. Tom and his colleagues have been developing there's a mouthful here, the Arizona Temporal Analysis and Response to Events System, known as Antares for short. Antares rolls off the tongue much easier and is fun because it's named after a star in Scorpius. It's a software tool designed to sort through all transients discovered in the night sky by the Zwicky Transient Factory and, in the future, the Rubin Observatory, flagging the most interesting objects for follow-up observations. Transients are anything that changes that can include asteroids, variable stars, supernova, many other interesting objects, and I'm sure some that we have not even thought of yet that we're going to discover based on this work by Antares, as well as these new telescopes that are surveying the night sky. The system can work directly with the Target and Observation Manager, TOM, another wonderful little acronym, toolkit, developed by software engineers at the Las Cumbres Observatory. The open access software enables astronomers to build a TOM system of their own, customizing it for their science, so they're able to prioritize targets and manage observations and data. This system allows for rapid follow-up with the most interesting objects each night. You can read more about TOM and Antares at the NOIRLab Stories on our website. You can see the address at the bottom there, noirlabstories.edu. So Antares filters all these events, which could number thousands to hundreds of thousands per night, picks out the most interesting one, and sends them off to telescopes around the world so they can be followed up on very quickly and right away. So this is a great project, and I hope you can read about that, and I hope we get Tom on here sometime in the future to talk about it, because it's a fascinating process. And I know Jamika said to mute everything, but I can't mute my cat. Sorry about that. So let's move on to our Colors of Nature and Color Studio Lab. Let's bring on our guests. Let's introduce Perrin Teal Sullivan, Lois Liston, Amy Orchard, and Tracy Buden. So if you'd like to just come on for a moment and say hi before we turn over to our first speaker to talk. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Does anyone have anything they'd like to add to my introduction that I gave you that I did for you? Or just do as we go along? Okay, guess not. So I'm going to turn over to Perrin, who has the first part of it, since she was involved in Colors of Nature since the very beginning, and she knows about all that. Perrin, just say next slide when you're ready for me to go next slide, and I will mute my audio and video, but I'll be listening.
Thank you, Rob, and thank you to everyone who's hosting us today. My name is Perrin Teal Sullivan. I'm at the University of Alaska Fairbanks, and I've been working in STEAM education development and research for the last 8 or 9 years, I think. And if we can get the next slide, Rob, I just want to talk a little bit about the genesis of this project. It started off as a collaboration between NOAO, which is now NOIRLab, University of Washington Bothell, and University of Alaska Fairbanks, led by Steve Pompea, Laura Connor, Marika Guthrie, and Carrie Zoe. And with a lot of support and design and facilitation by Rob Sparks, who just introduced us all, Will Roddy, who is also at NOAO, Gabrielle Vance and Kyle Campbell at UAF, and all of these people were instrumental in putting together the initial iteration of this program, which was called Colors of Nature. And it was the Colors of Nature Summer Academy happened over 4 years in both Fairbanks, Alaska and Tucson, Arizona. And it was a 2-week intensive summer program for middle school age girls. And it was part of an NSF funded project called Project STEAM, integrating art with science to build science identities among girls. And if I could get the next slide. So again, middle school age girls, and the focus of the Academy was integration of art and science in a STEAM approach through the thematic lens of color. So the biology of color, color in terms of optics, art, cultural aspects of color. And so it was this very intensive color focused academy based on the premise that STEM related identities is a significant factor in whether or not youth pursue STEM beyond high school, and with a goal of broadening participation in STEM fields and supporting equitable representation amongst all kinds of groups and learners. And so actually in this photo, this is the culmination of one of our first projects, where after the 2 weeks, the girls would develop a costume based on everything they knew about color, representing some sort of biological function of color, and then actually have a poster session with local scientists. And you can see in the photo on the right, they're showing off the spectrograms of their of colors of their, in this case, her plumage. And so I think some of the outcomes of this program that emerged from the research were that there were, through this integrated approach of art and science, there were positive changes in attitudes about science and interest in science, increased knowledge about the nature of science, and then self-concepts of science ability and art ability. And it also showed that the girls that participated had underwent identity shifts towards science, specifically through making connections between science and everyday life and seeing the ways in which art and science overlap. And if we can get the next slide, Rob. So out of this initial summer academy, we also developed, we kind of took the greatest hits and developed some curriculum that we could package into kits that were provided to school districts, libraries, library systems, and some other partners. And they focused on the core practices of STEAM, so overlapping art and science practices like observation, pattern recognition, experimentation, and many more. And then the chemistry of color, the biology of color and optical science. And so these kits then formed part of the basis of, or this group of lessons formed part of the basis of continuing on into the Colors of Nature studio lab that we're talking about today. And one more slide about this, I think, Rob. One of the other things that emerged from this initial academy were some what we're calling core STEAM practices that that were instrumental in helping create this identity shift in learners. And so those were engaging in close observation, focusing on personal meaning, conducting open exploration, designing with intention to help bring focus to these explorations, iteration and iterating through multiple versions of projects and ideas, and then a really big focus on communicating about process and outcomes. So it's not just the outcome of the projects that are important, but how we think about them, how we talk about them, how we communicate them to each other. And that brings us to next slide. Color Studio Lab, which was an extension after this initial project, NOAO, now NOIRLab, and the Desert Museum were interested in continuing some of this work. And so we have this great partnership that's developed between educators from the Tohono O'odham Nation, the Arizona Sonora Desert Museum, and other astronomers that are affiliated with some of the observatories in Tucson, who you will meet today. And so this version is kind of a place-specific evolution of some of the Colors of Nature's themes, Colors of Nature themes, sorry. And we've been doing a week-long program at Yorkham or the Kitt Peak Observatory and at the Desert Museum, so 2 separate week-long programs. And next slide. And so a deeper integration of the idea of color through a STEAM approach, but much more tied to local themes and resources, so astronomy, language and culture, and the Sonoran Desert ecosystem. And I think that takes me to Amy, who's going to talk a little bit about the role of the Desert Museum.
Okay, Perrin. Thank you, Perrin. I'd like to, can I bring up 1 or 2 more things about the original Colors of Nature that you didn't talk about? Yes, because one thing that we did with the original Colors of Nature, which you didn't mention, was every year we always had several students from the Tohono O'odham Nation there. And for those not in Tucson who don't know about that, actually our next live from NOIRLab, Arizona, you can learn a lot more about that because we have an O'odham speaker who will be telling us about the nation. But it's a very large reservation to the west of Tucson here. The capital Cells is about an hour, 15-minute drive from our headquarters in Tucson. And there's also a Santa Vera district, which is a little bit closer. It's about half-hour drive from our headquarters. But still, they're fairly widely separated. So each year, we made sure to recruit students from the Tohono O'odham Nation. And every day, these students would board a small van out in Cells, usually at the recreation center, and drive back and forth each day to come to these academies. And then the Santa Vera Education Center would also provide transportation for students from the Santa Vera district to these academies. The first ones were held at the University of Arizona Art Building for the Colors of Nature. Color Studio Lab, we had one on Kitt Peak and one at the Desert Museum, as Perrin told you. So students from the O'odham Nation from Cells, the main part of the reservation went to the one on Kitt Peak since that was close to them. Students from Santa Vera would usually go to the one at the Desert Museum since that was close to them physically. So I just want to mention that too, that this, even before Color Studio Lab, we had that O'odham connection that was important in this program from the beginning. So I just wanted to mention that as well. So now we can bring on Amy to talk about the Arizona Sonoran Desert Museum. So Amy, welcome.
Thank you, Rob, for having us here tonight. It is an exciting day in Tucson, Arizona. We are getting our first rains of the summer monsoon. So you may hear thunder in the background. My dogs, who are here with me at home, are definitely getting excited. So if you hear a little yipping, it's just because we love the rain here in the Sonoran Desert. And we're super excited that today is the day. So it's a great day for you to join us. Let's see, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen.
I just stopped sharing, so you can share now.
Thank you so much. So yes, again, thank you so much to the NOIRLab and all of our partners who have allowed us at the Arizona Sonora Desert Museum to join in the fun each summer, bringing to these teens the opportunity to explore, to create, and to communicate. It's right in line with what we do at the Arizona Sonora Desert Museum. Here is a beautiful shot of our entrance, and I just want to let you know a little bit about our institution. We do cover the flora, fauna, and geology of the Sonoran Desert region. And I'll bring up a map in just a minute so you can get a good idea of what that covers. But we are a zoo as well as a botanical garden. Of course, we have our Natural History Museum theme. We also are an art institute. We have an aquarium. We have a Stingray Touch experience. You might be wondering, why do we have stingrays at a desert museum? Once we get over to the map, I can let you understand that a little bit more. But my role there is as an education specialist in the Conservation, Education, and Science Department. So not only are we exploring and communicating out, we have scientists on staff who help us understand that information to pass on to not only teens and elementary school students, but all the way from toddlers to seniors. So like I said, this program fits just very nicely in with our mission, which is to inspire people, whether they're here at the museum coming and visiting us, or virtually visiting us, or learning about us online, to live in harmony with the natural world, whether it's the Sonoran Desert or wherever you live, by inspiring this 4-letter word, love, appreciation, and then understanding of the Sonoran Desert region. We are in the southwest of the United States and the northwest of Mexico. The tan area on this map represents our land mass. You can see we cover part of Arizona, a little bit of California, and down into 3 states in Mexico: Baja California Sur, as well as part of Sonora. And that is where we get our name, from the state of Arizona and the sister state, Sonora. We have been around even longer than Kip Peak, since 1952, and we are a nonprofit institution. We have, of course, the iconic saguaro cactus. But besides that, in addition to that, we have thousands of plant and animal species, which is a little unusual for a desert region. We are one of the most biodiverse regions on the planet, and we are the wettest desert in the world. Thanks you to the Gulf of California, where our monsoon rains, that moisture builds up over the Gulf and then swooshes north in the summer to provide the plants and animals with that moisture that they need. And I do want to acknowledge that the Arizona Sonora Desert Museum resides on the traditional land of the Tohono O'odham, the desert people. But as you can see from this map, there are many indigenous native tribes that have lived here for thousands of years on this land. The O'odham, as well as the Pascoyaqui, the Seri. I will not mention them all, but very important for us to remember that this land that we are on is borrowed land, and it's been very much an honor to work with Lois Liston and the other elders of the Tohono O'odham Nation to learn from them and be able to share that information back out with you again. So just a great glimpse at the saguaros in our area, but bringing these colors of nature students to the Desert Museum has been a great opportunity for them to meet many of the animals that reside in our desert, and helping and allows us to tie in these themes of optics and chemistry, scientific illustration. We enjoy bringing out our raptors that can see UV light and will follow their prey along their urine trails that they're able to see because of that ability to see the UV light. We get to talk about chemistry when we are bringing in one of the 4 species of skunk that live here in Arizona. This is our spotted skunk, talking about, yes, their amazing spray with this great chemical bond that's very difficult to break down. We get to bring in principles of engineering when we are teaching students. Our prairie dog is a perfect example with the homes that they build underground, involving many different tunnels and chambers for their coterie to live in. We get to bring in principles of biomimicry, where humans are looking to animals like the porcupine, to solve solutions, or to find solutions to problems that we have. Porcupine quills enter really easily, and they do not exit very easily at all. So some great items have been mimicked from the porcupine quills that allow things to stick and to hold really deeply and strongly. So it has been really great. Rob, I think you have one more slide just showing our Colors of Nature students at the Desert Museum participating in some great scientific exploration and communication. So Rob, if you want to pull up that last slide, go ahead, Rob.
You mean the video, right? The little short video? Or which slide are you?
No, that would be great right now if you want to pull that up, Rob. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, because let's see if I can pull this up here. So let's see. This is the next slide I have on here. Which, oh, this one. Okay, great.
Yeah, there we go.
Okay, there it is.
Yeah, so you know, plants and animals are fantastic to learn about and to understand, but we also help these students understand about the minerals in our desert. Not only how we can extract color from them, we've done some great artwork, painting with mineral samples that they have processed with a very authentic matate, manoi matate. So that is also an important thing. And Robbie, you can either play that video now or hold off for Lois to introduce that video for us. But with that, I'll turn it back over to Rob.
Okay, I think I'm going to let Lois introduce. I think we'll play after talking to Lois for a few minutes here, because I think she will have a very interesting perspective to introduce that video. So we can bring on Lois Liston. Of course, we can all talk about it afterwards too, because that's one of our very popular activities with the students on the last day, usually at these academies. They'll see a nice example of it. So Lois, would you like to come on here? And Lois is with the Tana Autumn Nation. She's one of the people we've used, one of the people we've hired to work with us on this camp. So we have I should just specify that Tracy, Perrin and Tracy are also contractors, work with us on this academy as well. So Lois, would you like me to put up the calendar for you?
Not yet. Hold on. Okay. School Kodanik, Agabat of Jugik, Clarence Eliando Sr., Jubat of Jugik, Christine Johnson, Ani of Jugik, Lois Liston, Ani Amjet Arjukran, Ani Amki Arjukran. I just introduced myself, saying good evening, and introduce my father and my mother, and then myself and where I come from. So I come from the community of Little Tucson, and I live there in the village of Little Tucson. So I'm Don Autumn, and I come from that nation, and it's very it's very exciting to work with the group that I'm sharing with, because it's home. It's home for me, and I live just under that mountain. That mountain is called Iorkam. That's our name for that mountain that the observatory is on. And so Iorkam means the plant that grows on there. It's the manzanita plant, and it just grows all over that mountain. And so we acknowledge it and call that mountain Iorkam. And so that's my home mountain. So every time I share a song about it, I'm acknowledging my homeland. So I just want to welcome you, for all of you that are here on our homeland, and that again, thank you for the opportunity to share this with our children, our grandchildren, because I've been part of the Colors of Nature on Iorkam for I think probably 4 years now, which I really enjoyed, and I was always inspired to see how these young women or these young girls participated and enjoyed the time that we're there. So I'm one of two of us that shared the Autumn Nyok, the Autumn language, in using relating to colors, to the stories, to the place, to the plants that are used there when we do the activities. So we use the autumn words. We introduce the autumn words, and sometimes the ones that are there already know these words, so they're very comfortable with it, or they've learned them already, or that's part of what their family shares. So again, we have terms for the different colors, the numbers, and how we connect to it. And our stories tell about how, how this came to be, or why we call it, why we say different things about this and that, because our people, are astronomers, they are stargazers, they are, they connect it with all the things in the world, the earth, in the environment. And so again, to use those items that we use to share with the students, it's really fun and it's exciting. And of course, it was sad when we weren't able to do it this past couple of years. But again, just to know that our young women are there and ready to learn. So one of the things that I share with them is the calendar, our autumn calendar. So go ahead and pull that up, Rob. So we have a calendar that we go by during the year, and each one of them is specific to different things. So of course, there's you see all that color, and all that color is involved. And so we we started our new year. We follow the lunar cycle. And when the lunar cycle starts in the new moon, that's when we started our new year, or start our month. And so our first month is called Hashin Bak, which you see at the top. And this is a time to gather the saguaro fruit. So Amy's excited about the rain, and I'm kind of like holding back because we haven't gone to harvest the bahitach, the saguaro cactus fruit. So again, bahitach is a word that we use for the saguaro cactus fruit. Hashan is the saguaro. So, and we have a connection to that because we have a story about how the Hashan, the saguaro, is a person, is our relative. So that's what we start out with. So we begin our new year. We don't celebrate it one day. We celebrate it through the whole month. So this is a time that we celebrate it. We go out and gather the cactus, the saguaro cactus fruit, and process it, and we make syrup, jam. We use the seeds for our food. And so again, those are things that we do. And we follow either the what the harvest is, or the weather situation, like the next one. So we're going counterclockwise. The next one is Jukabik, which is the monsoons, and they're definitely letting us know it's here. But as we go along, we go into planting, we go into harvesting, and go through that whole cycle for a whole year and focus on different things. So again, all the colors that are part of our landscape, and like it was mentioned before, we use the minerals to do our artwork. We use the plants to do our artwork. We use those things to provide for our food, our shelter, and there's, like I said, all this storytelling that goes with it also, but there's a certain time we share certain stories, but of course with the Hashin, it's almost year round because it's something that we focus on, and because it's connected to us. So with that said, I share that part with them because we look at how the lunar cycle, or the phases. So you can show the lunar phases now, Rob.
I'm not sure I have the lunar phases one.
Okay.
Let me show if I have that handy. Let me stop sharing this. I might have it handy, but let's see here. 'Cause I think I have it, but where'd that folder go? There we go. Is this the Lunar Phases? Nope, that's not. I don't have the Lunar Phases one, so
Okay, that'd be fine.
You
But I think everybody understands that, when the new moon starts and goes through its cycles, and when the new moon starts, that means, we're into a new month. And for us, Mashat, it means moon first, because we use that as our calendar month. But as we found out that, as it was shared with us about the month, then now we used Mashat as moon and month. So we use the two words to mean the one word that we use in autumn. And so each time it goes around the different times. So like, for instance, there's the what is it, the wax, the crescent, the first crescent. It lets us know that we've gone into the month for so many days, and we prepare for the full moon, because we know that that's going to alert us to start looking at the coming month. So we make those connections, and we actually did an activity that we used to do that also. And so again, those are things that we make connections, and myself and other autumn speaker, we both try to incorporate terms that are connected to what is being shared. So we'll go ahead and share the video. So the students did this video, and they always enjoy creating these videos, and it was fun to watch them.
Does someone want to introduce the video or say something about the, oops, I'm sorry, I'm on the wrong slide here. Let me get to the right slide. There we go. I did things out of order here. I apologize, Tracy. I flipped you and Lois in the order here, but this is the video. Does anyone want to, do you want to introduce it, Lois? Do you need to say anything?
Yes. So with parents' help and everybody else, the students created this video, and we learned how to use the application that goes with it. And so they created a story using the different colors of the characters, of the plants, of the animals. And it's real short, but it was fun to create, because these girls would put the voices in there or share what the story was about. So
thanks for reminding me, Lois. I'm going to stop sharing here for just a second and reshare, because I forgot to share the computer sound. So since there's sound, I want to make sure that we can hear the sound of the students in here and their voices. So now I'm resharing it, but this time with the sound, I hope. So hopefully this time it will actually play the sound for the students.
Bye.
Juana,
Kiana.
Christina.
The mother left the little boy to go play Thaka.
The little boy went to go look for his jitta, but in order to do that, he had to give his food away to the lizard.
After the lizard told the little boy where his mom was, he went to go to the eagle. The eagle asked for his food again. He told him where his jitta was, so he went off.
After the little boy left from the eagle, he ran into Bon, and Bon asked him for his food again.
The little girl ran and told the little boy's jitta that he was up in the hill and he was sinking. The mother ran, but it was too late. A cactus started to grow.
I think you can tell the students have a lot of fun making those videos. So, anything else you want to say about that, Lois, or any of the other instructors want to talk about that process of creating those videos? Perrin or Tracy want to talk about those videos as well?
I just wanted to comment that this is another way for them to get connected and stay connected to their identity and share their knowledge about storytelling or how they relate to it. So it was fun seeing them doing that. So thank you again for your time.
Yeah. And I also just want to say about with the Kit Peak Colors of Nature Summer Academy, we actually, the instructors, myself, Lois, Tracy, and Perrin and Amy, we spend the entire week on Kit Peak, Lois, and I just think I've just enjoyed that so much, getting to know you so much better spending literally a week on the mountain with you up there several times. That's been absolutely fantastic doing that with you. So now I'd like to bring on Tracy, who will talk about the Colors of Nature Academy on Kitt Peak. So Tracy, if you'd like to unmute your video, and I will share a few slides that you created here. And I'll mute my video out.
Thank you, Rob. So I've been involved in astronomy outreach for many years, just over a decade, under different umbrellas. And I'm currently over at the University of Arizona with the Mount Lemmon Sky Center. And I've known Rob for quite a while through an amazing program that he facilitates called Project Astro. And Project Astro is quite different from this program because it brings astronomer partners into the classroom to work with teachers, and we're working towards specific goals and guidelines developed by curriculum needs. Here at Kitt Peak, when Rob extended me the offer, I was thrilled because this is more of a Socratic method. You present the girls with these concepts and ideas, but through this lens that Perrin and others have created of that kind of cultural and artistical, biological, and physical approach, and in a way that they can fully explore it and ask their own questions. In the first slide here, we have the girls kind of going on this scavenger hunt and exploring Kitt Peak and the kind of natural landscape and environment, but also the man-made environment of the telescopes as well. And when we go up for the week, it's very serene, it's very idyllic. There's this kind of self-contained bubble, and the girls really get the chance to immerse themselves in the program, and I think the teachers do as well. I think as instructors, we experience it in a very unique way. The physical components that the girls would look for would be something like structural integrity, or sorry, structural color in the like the dragonfly wings, and then we would carry that forward through other concepts throughout the week. In the picture on the right, we were in the unique position to be able to sketch the moon every day, and I'm a big fan of sketching. And the moon, we found a perfect spot there at Kitt Peak where the moon was kind of rising over one of the telescopes, and we went out and sketched it. And by the second day, the girls were able to kind of predict what shape the moon might be the next day and where it might be in the sky, and then also make those cultural connections that Lois mentioned with the moon changing phase, changing the appearance, and the kind of landscape around them as well. Next slide, please, Rob. So not only were we able to observe the moon just physically naked eye, but we also looked at it through telescope, which was a fun opportunity for the girls. And I think we're hoping in the future that we'll be able to extend the camp to have either a late evening portion or an overnight portion, to where they can really use the telescopes and look at different colors in the universe, colors of stars and nebulae and the planets and such. In the image on the right, we spoke about the way that color is kind of absorbed and reflected, and the way that our eyes perceive light based off of the light that's being received that can change completely. And they made stories very similar to the video that we just saw, but in storytelling it just through light, the way that light would change the situation. And it led to all sorts of questions just organically about why we see things in a range of colors. Next slide. One of my favorite aspects of the program was the journaling, because we are looking at that lens of color in both a scientific and an artistic perspective. And so this Bear Book journal that they start with completely blank cover to cover, they fill in throughout the week, and they're looking at the kind of different ways that they explore color biologically. On one side here in the image, I think she has her moon sketches, and then on the other side she has sketches of some butterflies that we saw. And then in the image on the right, this was a picture taken through some diffraction grating. Diffraction grating is a material that has structural color all on its own via these little grids that are inside the material. And this film acts as a prism, and it separates the light into its constituent colors. And the way that we were able to connect that back to sort of the dragonfly wings and some of the feathers on the birds that we had seen earlier in the week, and just connect it to the place that we were at, made it a really unique experience. And we also looked at not just the white light coming in from the sun, but we spent some time sketching different light sources as well to kind of get a feel for the fact that each light source had its own unique fingerprint, its own unique composition. Next slide.
Bye.
Wanna?
Okay, there should be one more that has the girls as the saguaro.
Okay, let me look for it. This was the next slide. Let's see
Donna.
after that.
Christina.
Mother. Bye.
I don't see another slide. I just see those slides.
Okay, so maybe I can just describe it. So Rob would take these amazing longer exposure images, and using LED lights, they would kind of create a story with them and do light painting. And one of the ones that was kind of my favorite was the being traced as the saguaro cactus with the viaduct on the top. And it was a really fun way for the girls to understand light exposure, and that when astronomers look at light, they are taking not just a still image, but they're taking an exposure over time. It's something that is continually being added to. And yeah, so this has been a really amazing project for me to be a part of. I feel very blessed having met everyone and getting to work with everybody on the team. Perrin has a very unique artistic vision for it. Amy brings in all of the desert knowledge, and Lois connects us back to the landscape, and all with the support of Rob. So that's it.
Thank you, Tracy. I was actually trying to find that picture because I know which one you're talking about. But maybe I will be able to find it, but I won't have time right now. But anyway, I have a question for Amy. If Amy could come back on for just a second, because it's about Kit Peak here, and I think that you have an interesting perspective on Kit Peak, because you're a nature expert. You're the nature expert of the group, and you of course talk about all the stuff we do at the Desert Museum. To actually contrast that with the animals and plants that we see and explore on Kit Peak.
Yeah, the Sonoran Desert region is really a very interesting place. When you think about a desert, you might just think of big, empty sand dunes, but you could see from that one image that I shared of the saguaro cactus forests, we're just lush. But we aren't just a desert. All around us are mountains that we call our sky islands, including Iorgum, where we find Kit Peak. And these mountains just pop out of the desert floor and provide a change in elevation, which provides a change in temperature, which provides a change in vegetation. And so we have numerous biomes in the Sonoran Desert region. We have our desert biomes, we have grasslands that make you feel like you're right in Africa. We have our mountain woodlands. Of course, we have the marine environment with the Gulf of California. And so it is really a great pleasure to be able to move through some of those biomes with the students that we're teaching, to bring them out of the desert floor and up to the mountain to really feel and see that difference that we can calculate with numbers, that change in elevation and how it's going to change the temperature and the vegetation, which of course then changes the habitat for wildlife. So there's a whole different set of wildlife there. And I agree with you, Rob. It has been such a pleasure to spend the week on Kit Peak with Lois, and just coming to understand the Indigenous point of view so much better than I ever had before. And I'm so grateful to Lois for offering up those stories, those songs, that knowledge. It's made me a richer person.
Mhm. Yes. Thank you, Amy. I just thought that'd be fun to hear your perspective on the Kit Peak nature as well. So that's this contrast. Anyway, I found that picture. Tracy helped me. She gave me a little tip to find where that picture is in the presentation. So here is that picture which we talked about. It's light painting. Tracy talked about how she loves the sketching and the journaling, and unfortunately, sketching and journaling is not my strong suit, but photography is. So I take my camera, set it up. This is probably a 15-second exposure where the students take LED lights and they can move them around those 15 seconds and draw various pictures with them. And this is one of the pictures they drew, which is a lot of fun. So they sort of outline each other and make things look like saguaros in there. And they've done a lot of great light painting with this as well. So light painting is one of the very popular activities we've done to give the students a chance to be creative, and some science as well, because you have to think about the science of how much do we expose, how do we move these to make the right things, how do we move these to make the right shapes and patterns we're trying to make. So there's a fair amount of science and art here, and light painting is a great example of that. Anyway, in our last little section here, I'm going to move forward a little bit and talk about what we did last summer and this summer. So, because of course we could no longer do these in person last summer. So obviously in 2020, in-person academies were necessarily canceled due to COVID-19. And as I mentioned before, the Town Op Nation is large. It's about 70 miles from Tucson for the near side, and the far side is quite a bit farther than that. I've driven out in the Otham Nation sometimes, and I've had to find places that Google Maps couldn't find. So that's how big it is. Google Maps has not gotten everywhere out there yet. But a lot of people out there don't have good home internet connections, so that's obviously a thing we had to consider when we were thinking about what to do last summer. And we decided to have a remote, what we call asynchronous summer academy. So remote means the students would be out at their homes, safe at their homes, and we would send them materials and they would actually do the activities on their own with instructional videos and that sort of thing. So we actually went through all the activities that we had done over the years and said, okay, what are the things that are reasonably low cost that we could fit in a small backpack that have a lot of educational value to them. So we went through all our activities and selected some of those activities, bought the materials, bought backpacks. I went in there last summer, had to get special permission to go in because our office was shut down. We ordered them. I had to make the backpacks. It's been a couple days in there putting together equipment, printing stuff, putting all stuff in the backpacks. And the instructors, of course, how are the students going to know what to do with this stuff? So we decided we were going to make instructional videos. So each one of these activities, we made an instructional video for myself, Perrin, Lois, Amy, and Tracy, and Delphine as well, I think made one as well. So we all she's the other Otham person who works with us, the other Otham member of the Otham Nation works with us. And we all put them on memory sticks and DVDs in the kits. We also put them on websites for the students to access them. So the students could actually watch the videos and play with these things very similar to what they would in the classroom. So we included obviously our art, science, and Otham language and culture as well. So we tried to integrate as many things we could from the academy into these as well. And I was very pleased with the way it came out, considering we had a fairly limited amount of time to put all this together last summer. And we made a lot of videos. So we made a whole bunch of videos with this as well to put together in a fairly amount of time. Here's a picture of some of the materials that are in the kit. You can see the backpack there. We have colored paper. We have an LED light. We have colored pencils, a journal. We have this little loop right here. It may just look like a little, I don't think it's a magnifier, which has multiple magnifying glasses of different powers in there. We have paintbrushes, Mod Podge to make pigments, little diffraction gratings so they could look at colors, nail polish and cards. They could actually explore iridescence and structural color, diffraction grating glasses. This construction paper we use to look at stuff under different lights. So these lights here, with this light, will make red, green, and blue light. The students can actually take these construction paper and make pictures with them, because it's all different colors of construction paper, and say, okay, how does this picture look if I shine it with red light, green light, blue light, etc. We have the sun prints, so they can make the solar paper, so they make sun prints. And these candies may just look like candy, but they also are different color candies. So of course the fun thing is to put the candies on different color lights, shine red light on it, try and figure out which color candy is which when you're looking at it with a certain color of light. Because it's very hard to tell sometimes. So this was sort of some of the ideas in our kit last summer that we put together, and we got videos from each of these And oh, believe it or not, I even did a video about light painting, because that puck, that LED puck, we gave him batteries too, because that's a battery operated light puck. I made a little video because a lot of cell phones now can do timed exposures, so I actually showed them how they could do light painting by using their cell phone as a camera, which was fun too. So we even tried to do light painting with the students remotely. So I'd love to. So that was a lot of fun to do all those things last year. So let's see. I think that. So this is just a quick list of the videos. We had introductions. There's a notebook introduction about how to journal, field journaling, using the magnifiers. We had a star wheel in there so you could see what's up in the night sky on any night. Lois did the morning song for them. We had several activities on the EM spectrum and reflection and absorption. The little Jacob's ladder, that fun thing, which was multicolored. Also a great thing to look at under those LED lights because those different colors. We had multicolored lights and light painting. I gave them a little polarized light demonstration, a little piece of polarized film and a plastic spoon they could look at. The Tonatham calendar, which Lois went over earlier. And Amy did several videos of animal encounters. So we had a chuckwalla, a hairy scorpion, this, big pigments from nature. Students got to make their own pigments. The story of Bond was another one of Lois's colors. Sunset colors. Tracy, a nice video illustrating why we have sunsets have nice red and orange and red colors. Lilac Parrot was another video, another animal encounter, and cyanotypes was another great video as well. So we had all these wonderful videos that were put together last summer for this. So you can see that was actually a lot of work. Now, of course, in the future, hopefully again, we did that again this summer. This summer is also a virtual academy. But in the future, we hope to do it again. This summer, I sent out kits already. We're still accepting applications from students on the Otham Nation from Santa Vera as well as the nation proper. So if you know any students out there who might like a kit, you can let us know and we'll send their kits to those students on the Otham Nation. Of course, we could do it next summer. Next time, we'd like to do set up an online gallery for student work. We can get more student work. I also put a nice feedback form in there. Hopefully, we'll get some feedback from the students this summer about how they use the kits and see some of their art as well. So that is our last slide here. So at this point, I'd like to bring all the panelists back on. I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and we can see Jamie can come on and let us know if we have any questions, comments from the chat. We are just got a few minutes left to talk about questions and comments if we'd like to. So Jamaica, thank you. I'd like first of all to thank everyone for being here, and thank you, Jamaica, for monitoring our chat. So
yes, absolutely, Rob. Absolutely. So we have lots of comments in the YouTube chat, and we did actually just get a question. So I will start with that one. So this is from Liz Fleming from Memphis, Tennessee. And she says, as an educator, I would love to know how students in Memphis can participate in these amazing opportunities. So is this available for people outside of Tucson?
Oh, well, right now, unfortunately, we don't have available for outside Tucson. There was talk of making the kits available. Parents, you know anything about the status of that?
Yeah, so a couple things. The original curriculum that this program was based on is actually available at our site colorsofnature.org under educator resources, and it includes the materials that you'll need as well as pretty comprehensive activity plans. I think one of the things that's my hope for the future, I wanted to say, listening to you guys all, it's so representative to me of like what the promise of a STEAM approach is, which is like integrating knowledge from both disciplinary sources, but also from our everyday lives, and acknowledging that in real life, when we encounter a problem, we encounter it from all of these different perspectives, from our disciplinary knowledge, but also from our personal experience and our emotional state. And so this group, I think, has really been a demonstration of how this kind of approach can flourish when taken and expanded in a specific context. And so I just want to encourage you to adapt these ideas to your own particular location and context and the resources that are available to you. You're also welcome to reach out to us, and I think any of us would be glad to talk about ideas. The other thing that I think is so representative is last summer when this all fell apart, we were kind of waiting for the go on our in-person program, and everybody really just showed up and was like, okay, we could do this, let's make videos. And so we all recorded videos on our cell phones and on Zoom calls, and so they're very, very lo-fi. but they are available to watch. And I just want to give that as a caveat, but they're all available to watch on our site, colorstudiolab.org. And so you're welcome to watch those, and they're instructional. And my hope is that because this has been such a wonderful thing, and we've developed this great program, is that maybe at some point we'll have support for creating videos with higher production value that we can actually distribute with a broader reach. So maybe that's coming at some point.
I know Tracy redid some of her videos this year, so I could see that she upped her production values from year to year. So we all learned some things as we went on.
I think there was a learning curve for like literally everyone in 2020 to be like, yeah, I suddenly know how to produce videos.
And I know if I made mine again, my production values would be higher as well. So I learned some things last year as well.
Thank you for that, Perrin. That was a fantastic comprehensive response, and I was just about to drop the links in the chat, and I think Rob beat me to it. I'd already dropped the Color Studios link at the very beginning of the at the show, so just was adding it again. So thank you, Rob. And also there's several other links to the colorstudio.org and of course to the educator products. So thank you for that. And hopefully, Liz Fleming, that answered your questions. I'm really glad that those resources are available. And a few more comments from the chat. We actually have people from several places who joined the chat, and we may have others, of course, who didn't make a comment in the chat, but that is okay because we are glad everyone is here with us today. So we have Mount Lemmon Sky Center who says, excellent, thanks so much for providing this. We also have Daniel Fisher joining us from Germany. I'm not quite sure how to pronounce the exact place in Germany, but he's joining us from Germany. Sabria Mosby from Tennessee in USA. Alan Jackson, who joins us frequently. We're so happy to have Alan with us today from Tucson, Arizona. And of course, let's see, we have also Liz Fleming from the Memphis Stargazers from Memphis, Tennessee, and Daniel Fisher, who I mentioned earlier. Yes, so they've been really active in the chat, really enjoying everything that you've been sharing, especially the colors, your time lapse, Rob, with doing the light painting. Everyone thought that was really amazing, and the storytelling, that animation with the storytelling, we just was so adorable and cute and just fantastic. So those are the questions and comments from the chat. Thank you so much.
Actually, if I could just, for the last minute or two here, he's got a couple minutes left, I would like to share a few more of the light painting pictures because I found them in my Lightroom. So I'm going to share my Lightroom gallery right now, which has a lot of these pictures. And the first one I'm going to show is one of my favorites because the person in the middle here that's being painted by the saguaro, that's Lois. So Lois got painted as a saguaro right here, which I think is just a fantastic picture. So that's one of my favorites right there. But I think this was a particularly wonderful group we had this year, because this year really did some great stuff in terms of thinking about how to actually plan pictures and make them and make the patterns of the bugs there and that sort of thing. They also had to write some things sometimes. You can see that it is hard to do light paintings. You have to remember that things are backwards. So you can see they made the backwards S, so they had to try it a couple times to get the S right. This time they got the S right, so the second time they got it right. But you can see that's the part of the learning process. You have to think backwards sometimes because you're on the other side of the S and you have to think how the camera sees things versus how you see them. But I think they just did a great job of making some of these pictures right here. And they've made one Kit Peak, again, a backward P the first time. So they had to put that thing. So that's probably a different person who learned the lesson that time. Second one was also Kit Peak there. So we did Kit Peak. And I also love this one because, of course, as we said, that's the Otham name for Kit Peak, where they wrote the Kit Peak in Otham as well. And lastly, I'll show this one because I think it's also another one, a little tribute to Kit Peak, where they actually made a telescope dome with light painting. So that's obviously a lot of fun to do that there. So any last minute questions or comments from the chat, Jamaica? I just wanted to show off those because I thought those were some fun light painting pictures I found.
No, Those are all of the comments and questions from the chat today. I'd like to say thank you to everyone who joined us in the YouTube audience today, and especially those who made comments and questions for today's guest. Thank you so much.
Actually, there's one comment that I see in the chat I want to just mention briefly. I have another computer screen over here, so I keep looking that way. That's where I monitor the chat. I see Daniel Fisher said, had to Google what a chuckwalla is. Had first read chupacabra. So we did, just to be clear, we did not observe a chupacabra in Colors of Nature. So
yeah, I figured that, so I didn't say anything about the chupacabra, but I'm glad you addressed it for sure, because I wasn't completely sure that you didn't observe a chupacabra, but thank you for clarifying that you did not.
Anyway, I'd like to thank Perrin and Tracy and Amy and Lois for joining us today. That's been a fantastic presentation, a lot of fun talking to you and getting together. Jamika, before we go, would you like to tell us about next week's Live from NOIRLab at Gemini?
Yes, next week, live from NOIRLab here at Hawaii. Our host will be my colleague, Leinani Losi, and we will be speaking to a guest about Asteroid Day, which is on June 30th. So definitely join us here next week on this NOIRLab YouTube channel for that presentation at 2 p.m. HST, 5 p.m. MST.
Okay, thank you, Jamika. And I'd like to thank everyone in our audience for joining us, and we hope to see you on the next edition of Live from NOIRLab. Bye, everyone.